Welcome to Cos-Ability. This panel is brought to you by SheProp, which is an amazing community group we're all part of. We actually just turned 6. Our goal with our panels is education, awareness, kindness, and community. And we're still growing. I love doing our panels. This is the 3rd one, 4th one I've done at WonderCon. We've done them at Comic-Con, Emerald City, New York. We're all over the place, and I love that. So without further ado, this is Cos-Ability, cosplaying without boundaries. Cosplay is a taxing hobby, and for those of us with different abilities or disabilities, that can take on a very specific set of different flavors. So I'll introduce myself and the rest of my panelists. I am Lacey Bond, Joy Goblin. I've been cosplaying for about 8 years. My favorite thing to do in cosplay is wig styling and makeup. And my favorite character to cosplay is Loki. We also have a special kind of remote virtual guest. Mandy, aka Be the Spark Cosplay, is a really wonderful cosplayer and maker. And throughout the presentation, we've got words that she's contributed and photos of her tools and her processes. So those will be sprinkled throughout. I'm gonna go down the line, starting with Elemental Cosplay.
Hi, Elemental Cosplay, or Sam. I've been cosplaying for 6 or 7 years. What else am I supposed to say?
Character that you like to cosplay the most, or something you like doing, especially with cosplay, whether it's props or sewing or group cosplays?
I do sewing the most, and one of my signature characters is Captain Planet. I'm a conservation biologist in real life.
Oh, nice.
I can't beat that. I'm a goblin. I'm Christy Lynn, and thank you. I've been cosplaying for 15 years. Oh, now that I said that out loud, it seems like I'm very old. I'm mostly known for my wig and effects makeup work in the community. I have some friends of mine, colleagues, and I have a panel called the Cosplay and Makeup and Wigs panel that we've been doing for about 12 years now, I think. At least I'm one of the oldest ones on that panel, but I'm mostly known for my Catwoman cosplay, which I've done many iterations of, and my Rogue from the X-Men. That's all I have so far.
My name is Adrian. I use he, they pronouns. I've been cosplaying since around 2019, but started taking it more seriously in 2021 when I moved out here. And my favorite thing to do within cosplay is weathering and texturing. I love making props and foam work with armor and things like that. My favorite character to cosplay right now is Vi from Arcane.
My name is Jessica Mills, and I am a wig maker by trade and a wig maker by cosplay. So I'm probably more known for creating wigs for other people and myself. I don't know what cosplays I might be known for, but I love doing like rose quartz.
Here, I would say your rose quartz.
And mystery girl. That's the other thing. I like the cosplays that are on screen for 5 seconds.
Hi, my name's Aaliyah. I go by Magical Black Girl Aaliyah. I've been cosplaying for 11 years. Yeah, WonderCon's my cosplay anniversary every year. So 11 years now. I'm most known for I do Cinderella, but specifically the 1997 Brandy version. I feel like I'm known for that. Either that or I do a lot of historical fashion, usually like big Rococo gowns. Those are my jam. Was there something else?
No.
Okay.
Pronouns, which I forgot to include.
Yes, pronouns she, her.
My pronouns are she, her. I think we missed yours, Sam, because I forgot.
She, her.
They, them, sometimes she, depending on how spicy I feel that day.
Yeah, she, her.
Cool. I made a mistake on this slide. I was trying to fix it on my phone, but Elemental is only on Instagram, not TikTok.
I can only handle one social media account.
That's
Understandable.
I feel like I make accounts on everywhere, and then I just ignore them. Just want to own the name, you know?
Yeah. Nobody else can steal your username. So there's a number of topics here. I have a few questions that we'll all be answering, or some folks will be answering different ones. It's a Q&A panel. I don't think I need to explain how that works. Once we're done, we'll open it up for audience Q&A, and we should be able to have a cool discussion. So the first question is, do you gravitate towards characters who are also disabled? I'm going to leave Mandy's slide up here. Her answer is essentially sometimes, but usually she gravitates towards something. I mean, that's how we all cosplay. All right, who wants to take this one? I've got Chrissy's. Do you want to go, Chrissy?
Yes, please.
So my retirement plan of my cosplay progression is, okay, so when I have to have my hips replaced, I'm gonna be Professor X or Oracle. And like, now mind you, those were my thoughts like 15 years ago. I can still do that now, right? Like, we did the, at D23, we did the geriatric Disney princess group. Let you think about that for a second. It was pretty great. And I had my little walking stick, which the bottom of it was, because I do use a walking stick, I should use it more, with a candelabra like at the bottom of it. And we had a couple of folks that were in wheelchairs at the time, but now that I think about that as like later on, I can also cosplay non-disabled characters anytime I want, and vice versa. So,
What sort of representation trends are you seeing in today's media? Adrian.
I think one thing that has been represented a lot more in a lot of recent media is representation of invisible disabilities and mental disabilities, such as like PTSD, anxiety, and depression, and that kind of thing. And I think that's been a really great way to destigmatize those things, but also help people feel seen in the characters that they love.
Jeff.
Another thing that I've been seeing is the organic inclusion of different things. It's not shoehorned in, it's not called attention to, it's not like, here it is, we did it. And I really love that because that's how it is. Like, it shouldn't
not
be
pandering or token.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it exists, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I really like when representation is it's just part of the world.
Mhm.
It's seamless. It's not a spotlight or an awkward, like, did you see?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a
I feel like in
thing.
the beginning, we worked in film and television. Jess and I lived together because lots of references back and forth. And I used to notice they would have to make sure that you knew that person was disabled and what their disability was, or they were queer, and you had to make sure that they want to make sure you knew that instead of it just being organic. So I am seeing less of that.
I'm liking this little discussion. But in case you don't know, ADA and HIPAA regulations mean that people can't ask you what your disability is. They can ask you what accommodations you require, and I'm starting to see a bit more of a trend of people making space for accommodations and thinking more along the lines of, okay, different people need different accommodations. They're not broken in different ways, they just need different accessibility needs.
That's also specifically nationally. That's not international, just FYI.
Yeah, that's in America. ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act. I forget what HIPAA stands for, but it's the Healthcare Information Protection, and then there's 2 A's at the end. There's not 2 P's, there's 2 A's in HIPAA. That peeve of anyone who's ever had to deal with it.
It's not a hippo.
What if it was?
No. We're not going to get down into a TED Talk about HIPAA. All right, next question is, actually I'm going to stay on the left side because that one's a jump. How should an abled person approach cosplaying a disabled character? Sam was first, so.
I think that's, well, I know, I raised my hand and then I thought about it. I think that there isn't a blanket statement that we can make on what people should do and should not do. I know, personally, if I don't need a specific mobility aid, for example, if I were to cosplay a character that needed it, I wouldn't use it because it's not a costume. It's something that someone needs in real life. Not a huge fan of when people cosplay a character who's blind and they act blind. And so I think some of it is just personal choice, but just being aware that you are going to come across people who have those issues and see you dressing up as their disability.
Just something to add?
That was similar to what I was going to say, is that, obviously people are going to have different ideas on it. Be sensitive to it, don't be reactive to it. If you have made a choice to do something and someone wants to explain to you why they think that may have been in poor taste, listen to them. Their experiences matter. When we did the geriatric princesses, I was in a wheelchair. I could hardly walk that week, and a lot of people were like, well, it's I can't get my wheelchair in, and I'm like, then let's work together to make that more accessible and bring more attention to it. But it wasn't a costume for me that day. We integrated it. I wasn't supposed to be in the wheelchair that week, and then I asked to be because I couldn't walk. But I think it's the sensitivity. I think we've had a shift where people try to be so accurate. They're like, well, that's what the character has. And it's like, that's true, but maybe we think about it a little more.
Yeah. Another thing that was brought up is if you are cosplaying someone with a disability, don't get an ADA badge if you don't need one. Who has an ADA badge today?
I haven't gotten it yet.
Audience, do you guys know about ADA badges? Yeah.
You taught me about those.
Yeah. So an ADA badge for especially large conventions, but smaller conventions are starting to do this too, gives you access to a variety of things. Big conventions will have designated ADA seating. You can see that we've got reserved for deaf interpretation, spaces for wheelchairs, etc. Big conventions like Hall H at Comic-Con have specific entrances and exits, so that if you have accessibility needs, you can use those. They're easy to get. All you have to do is approach the deaf and disabled services or ADA services and tell them that you need an ADA badge. They may ask what accommodations you need. Again, just like flying or anything, you're not allowed to ask what your disability is. Disclosure is up to you. And they make getting around a convention a lot easier, and we have a section about getting around conventions as well. So this question is, what tools or methods do you find make it easier or possible to realize your cosplay dreams? I've got one, and it's compression gloves. I have chronic hand pain, and I usually am wearing long ones up to the elbow, but they're black and they're not cute with the striped Captain Barbie that I'm wearing today, so I wanted to wear something that matched a little bit better, but I will be changing. Adrian?
I also use a lot of compressions and braces and things like that, but I also kind of gravitate towards characters with a more alternative or tactical style, and so I find that I am more easily able to incorporate those into the actual cosplay instead of trying to hide it or like try to get around it, which has been really cool.
I like to incorporate a walking stick if I can. I probably have 20 of them at home because I collect vintage ones and antique ones, and I recently inherited my mom's. And so, like, if it's, like, I do Captain Hook a lot, different versions of it, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pull out the brass one for that. So, like it's like going to my closet of sticks, and like, if I can incorporate it and it's functioning and it helps me, depending on what I'm wearing and how far in the con I am, and like where my legs decide we're not working anymore, then I'm all about it. It's an accessory, but it's also a necessity.
Yeah. Aaliyah?
Yeah, also walking sticks, but besides that, honestly, Crocs. Like I don't have full ankles, and so a full like con day can like really like put me out. And recently, like I used to always be for accuracy, like having shoes that match. Like I'm wearing them right now. Like they got them in different colors now, so like see it matches. Like they're so comfortable, and like I'm not dying at the end of the day. So like honestly, a good pair of shoes that are cute.
Yeah. Jess?
Yeah, and I just want to back up on that, like, orthotics, corsetry can be really helpful for no matter what gender you are. If you can integrate it, great. If you can stealth it, great. Compression is so helpful. It's just, if you want to hide it, great. If you want to make it part of your cosplay, great. But take care of your body, because disability is something everyone is going to experience at some point, and I think more people need to realize that. Like, ability is temporary, and that's something I had to learn really hard. But yeah, that's it.
I have one more thing to add. I just want to say that, like, I think we can all kind of, like, resonate with this, but I really appreciate the people who come with me to cons and who are aware of what I struggle with and aware of how to help me, and the people that are with me and stay vigilant and do their best to help take care of me when I can't take care of myself. I'm sure all of us have had a friend or a partner who have done that for us, and I just want to say that if you've done that for anybody, it's very appreciated.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
How does your disability play a role in what characters you choose to cosplay? Back. Adrian.
So one thing that's really funny is I kind of tend to gravitate towards like extremely like viewed as powerful characters. So like Vi from Arcane, who's like a fist fighter. This character who is like a supernatural demon guy. But it's like I like going for characters that make me feel empowered because I don't like trying to like I don't know. It's just I prefer to do things that make me feel stronger than to give in to feeling weak because of my disability, because I feel like a lot of that comes from societal pressure. And so if I can find myself in somebody who is seen as strong, it makes me feel a lot better about myself.
I want to read out Mandy's contribution. Mandy has one of her arms ends at the elbow, and so she incorporates that into her costumes and cosplays a lot. She has a Cinderella where she has a glass prosthetic arm. Although I don't always pick characters specifically for their disability, I love thinking up creative ways to incorporate prosthetics into many of my cosplays. I just wore a new 3D printed hand with my dandelion cosplay, and I'm dreaming up a way to make a cool steampunk arm for my steampunk bout. Yeah, I don't recall if she put it in writing, but she competed as Anastasia from Anastasia, and she had this like long gold like filigreed arm, and in the green room, no one actually realized that it was a prosthetic until she took it off. And they're like, why is she wearing it? Oh! It was really beautiful. Lita Spark has got some really cool builds. She competes as well as judges. Okay. Spoilers. Do you modify patterns or use specific materials or such when fabricating?
I'm a garment hacker, or I commission. And so a lot of times, if there's any accommodations to be made, I will let them know, or I just work around things. But since I'm mostly a wig person, a lot of what I do there is making sure that it's not going to hurt. So, I like things light, I like things comfortable, I like, a lot of people complain about wigs not fitting and stuff. There's nothing worse than already being uncomfortable, already being in pain, having to deal with whatever your disability might be, and then get a migraine. So, so if I'm altering anything, it's more in that realm.
I usually opt in for anything that stretches. Okay, so my legs, my left leg is 1 inch longer, 2 inches wider in circumference, and a whole shoe size bigger than my right leg. So, which my whole body corkscrews really strangely, and then pivots and tilts weird. So like my belly button is over here, and like whenever I try to have things made, because it's hard for me to make stuff to fit this situation. So like my corset maker makes things very specific that's not symmetrical at all to like lift up one side on the right, and then because my left rib protrudes really weird, she has to give me an extra 1/2 inch of a panel. And then like pants, I have to like make, I try not to make modify too much, but it can be a pain in the ass, like if it doesn't stretch. And then shoes is a whole different story.
What about my screen timing out? Hold on. Oh no!
Waiting for flying toasters. That'd be great.
wait. Okay, we're back on track. Before we get to approaches to competing, there's Anastasia's beautiful gauntlet. What about purchasing, altering, commissioning? We've talked about garment hacking and specifics when you're getting commissions made. Screen accuracy and purchasing versus making is kind of an ongoing conversation in cosplay, and you don't need to have made your whole thing. You can have purchased your whole thing. That's a little different. If you're competing, you need to have made all or most of your cosplay, but if we're all just dressing up and having fun with characters that we like. But yeah, do you do much? I definitely like commission or will hire people. I'm Elphaba from Wicked on Sunday. I'm hiring Chrissy to do my makeup because that type of repetitive stuff for me is taxing. It hurts my arms and I don't want to get a flare up from it.
I can sit and do it on you.
Yeah, I would sing a lot doing that. Also, didn't you add like a holster for your walking stick for one thing?
Talking to me. I don't know. There's lots of disabled people.
Talk about that. 'Cause that was another thing you were like.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to this might be interesting to folks in the room, but I'm trying to patent, design, and create a holster for walking sticks that are incorporated into or like collapsible walking sticks, which I have one in like every room of my house, so that you can, have your aid with you, and it like you don't have to hold it if you don't need to, or like pass it to someone because you don't want it in a photo. But yeah,
I would buy a holster.
Okay.
That'd be great.
I love that. I've been using
Sam's
I
got
got
some.
like a rapier holster that I sometimes
Yes.
attach to a belt. But I'm like, we need something
Amazing.
better. So
okay, I'm working on that. No pressure, Chrissy.
So, Sammy, did you have something to?
So I can't do a lot of hand sewing, hand beading, adding sequins by hand, anything like that anymore. So I actually exchange services with friends a lot. So they will do some hand beading for me, and then I will do something else for them on their costume. And it gets really frustrating, right? Because as my disabilities progress, I can't do things I used to be able to. And, you get to a point where you just have to be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be like cursing my hands at 10 p.m. and I should just find someone to help me. And so that's something I've learned to do a lot.
Yeah, learning to ask for help, I think, has been one of the hardest things that I've had to do since like cosplaying, since my disability.
Yeah, I think that the like loss over time, because my thing developed and I thought it was a temporary like carpal tunnel thing that was 3 years ago, and just like the emotional process of like relearning how to do things, grieving over loss of ability, it like doesn't really get talked about nearly as much, and it does, like it really impacts your mental health. Like I lost my job to my disability earlier this year, and like I'm fortunate that I had really good disability benefits. California is one of 5 states in these great United States disability benefits, and so like I'm turning it into like a career pivot, right? But like that sucks, and like you use your hands for everything. And doctors were telling me like in the first 6 months they're like, you should get a different job, and I was like, how? Could you go back to medical school with hand pain if you tried to write a paper?
just moderate panels forever now.
pay me.
Well, but you have to put the slides together. That's another issue.
I did have to put these slides together, and it was a challenge. Sometimes I do have people help with the slides, but it can be challenging to like delegate because I'm just like to be in control of exactly how everything looks. I have actually a foot clicker mouse that I use, so I'll move the mouse around with my hand, but then if I need to click, clicking backwards my elbow. Yeah, a little foot pedal mouse. So if you have chronic hand pain, that is a really helpful thing that I've added to my computer use, and I really, because my job is very corporate, I've really like stopped using the computer for a long time, but still kind of, whatever the situation is, progressed, and it's weird when it starts in your 30s, because for most people, because like Jess was saying, ability is temporary. Everybody eventually becomes disabled in a variety of different ways, but having it happen in your 30s when people just like, or earlier, when people just don't expect it, like, oh, but you're so young. I'm like, yeah.
You don't look disabled.
Can you prescribe me something about it?
Yeah. It's like,
Imagine becoming disabled at 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like 12, and my doctor's like, yeah, you're gonna have to have a hip replaced. And I was like, oh my god, that's so far away. What is that? And then like my third orthopedic's like, yeah, you probably have to have both. And I'm like, what? And I was all trying to do roller derby at the time, which I kind of still did. But yeah, it's just, I was kind of born, my stuff developed when I was about 5 or 6, and I was on crutches for a good chunk of my childhood, but like, everything does change. I mean, my left leg is doing something weird now, and I'm like, well, I can't like squat and be all Catwoman-y, agile.
It changes your posing.
Today.
Yes.
Yeah, just be picking up stuff is harder.
Being on your knees is harder.
Sucks.
Crafting on your floor.
I like a big cutting table, thank you very much.
We love a crafting table. Yeah, I do want to talk about competing a little bit. I want to read out Mandy's response to this. Because competing is a world that is a little different than casual cosplay, but when it comes to disabilities and incorporating things into them, like a good contest judge is never going to deduct points based on modifications made to accommodate disability. I've incorporated prosthetics into several of my competition designs that make the character uniquely me. It was actually kind of funny at New York Comic Con last year because several of the other contestants didn't realize I was missing an arm. I had been trying to figure out why Anastasia was wearing a gauntlet until I took the whole arm off in the green room. I've judged competitions where contestants needed to wear glasses or had knee braces, and that absolutely did not affect their score in any way. However, many competitions do score based on how closely you match to the reference character. If your modification is going to significantly alter the look of the character, create your own reference photos. Even if it's just a homemade sketch highlighting the intentional choices you've made, that gives the judges a way to score you highly while still incorporating your disability into the character. There's panels upon panels about cosplay competitions and build books and stuff. Chrissy is involved in, I think, the LA
Comic-Con. Yeah, I've been running that one for 13 years.
Yeah, so don't be afraid. I've definitely seen footage of judges like awkwardly referencing like that someone is on crutches or has a prosthetic, and it's so uncomfortable. Just don't. Anything else to add about competing? That was pretty comprehensive from Mandy.
I haven't competed.
I mean, as far as competing as a person behind the scenes, I always try to make sure that like everything about the stage set up, even pre-judging, is ADA compliant, and make sure that people have as much time as they need to. One thing I was going to incorporate into the application for applying for competing for our Cosplay National Championship, I have to say the whole thing out loud, under contract, is asking like, oh, do you need do you have any accessibility? Like, how can we be accommodating? Because then I can just check off what they need specifically. And sometimes they're in a wheelchair, but sometimes they're like 5 feet wide because they want to go hard with their foam armor, and they need the lift or the ramp. And then I want to make sure I give people the allotted time to be prejudged with the fair, equal amount of time as anybody able-bodied gets as well. And so just things like that to consider.
All right, let's talk about navigating conventions while disabled. What are some common accommodation issues that you run into at conventions? Ooh, you go first. Yeah.
A lot of times, if you're like, in different spaces and stuff, sometimes I've had staffers get angry at me for sitting on the floor. And when I told them that I was disabled and needed to sit, they would question me about it and like ask me like, oh, well, what's your disability? Why do you need to sit down? And it's really frustrating when staffers are not as trained on these things and they don't understand that you can't ask those questions. And to have understanding for people who aren't just trying to get in the way, but actually have a health emergency.
That's almost exactly what I was going to talk about.
Yeah.
Being able to sit is important for me, and that's not
Especially
even
if queues are outside.
There just
Yeah,
needs
sun.
to be more seating
Yeah.
at conventions.
Yeah, and like I get it, and it's also, I get that they don't want to put it out because then everyone will be using it. They don't want people on the floor because of fire hazards. I get all that, but then either the staff needs to be trained better, or because sometimes even with the ADA sticker, they're like, we don't have anything for you, and I'm like, well, that's patently untrue because this is why this was put in place. So, and then kind of piggybacking on that too is access to bathrooms.
Yeah.
And the debate on handicap stalls goes back and forth and whatever, because like I don't look like I need it, but sometimes I need that stall. And when there's 5 of you in there playing with your cosplay versus I'm going to make a health hazard in this bathroom if you don't let me in right now.
Shut the whole thing down.
So it's just I think it's growing, it's getting better. Aisle length, for mobility aids, like that's a standard that's put in place, but oftentimes they'll just do just the minimum.
Yeah.
It's like
Minimum's 3 feet.
yeah, and it's
Or-
like okay, that's
I
the
know.
minimum, but like you still need that space, and it's getting better, but it still has room to grow.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't understand the severity and suddenness of some of our needs
Yes.
because you don't look disabled. And so when I'm sitting on the ground to a staffer, it looks like I'm just getting in the way, but
Yeah.
they don't understand that you can either have me sit here or you can have me unconscious on the floor. So
they're like,
pick
oh,
one.
you can. There's seats on the other end of the hall.
I'm like, cool, I'm having an issue right now.
I've been to a couple events where I was pleasantly surprised, almost borderline shocked, to see a roped off section specifically for folks with disabilities to go and just sit and rest.
That's amazing.
And I was like, what, we're at this like gothic nightclub, and there's that area for me. Because, you know, a lot of places don't have anywhere to sit unless you want to go sit in a panel room for a panel you may not be interested in, but you might actually end up interested in that panel. That's happened to me many times. But yeah, just having those areas and those spaces, I feel like it's a slow start, but they're trying to get there.
Yeah. I had a friend literally just today who uses a cane that security tried to prop check their cane. This happens
I've had that happen a lot.
Oh my god.
constantly.
All the time.
Security is not allowed to prop check your cane or any
Need
other
a sword
prosthetic
stick at home.
or mobility aids.
They tried to prop check my crutches this morning.
Yeah, staff tend not to really know how to deal with disabilities and is a constant frustration for a lot of us.
And that's
especially
why mobility aids as a costume is a problem. And that was brought up to us a lot of times. It's like, well, I get hassled for it. And that's why that's a problem.
Can they go shut? Why?
So dramatic.
Can I get clarity on what's going on, please?
Attention! Attention! This is an emergency. Leave the building through marked exits. Do not use elevators.
This is going to present an interesting accessibility case study.
Thank you. The deep irony.
Leah, can you? Okay.
Thank you.
If you feel uncomfortable and you want to leave, you're more than welcome.
Very comfortable in this chair right now.
Just
Throwing that out there. Nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
make sure where your stuff is.
This is fun.
You would.
You don't use the elevator.
Yeah.
You find the nearest Wonder Woman and you go.
This is not the first time.
This actually happened right before my Comic-Con panel last year.
Yeah.
Exact thing.
Mine happened during the supernatural thing.
Oh, no.
Hesha.
Oh,
Y'all, if we can't use elevators, I'm gonna need some help.
Exactly.
I hear you. Until my legs buckle.
Yeah. You'd have to have a system.
Fireman carry.
I'm gonna make peace with my maker.
It was a good
I'll
one.
stay there. I won't leave you. I'll stay here.
Good time, not a long time.
We do have to leave. Okay, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could just exit out the exit doors.
Just under my
Thank you so much.
We lost like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was
and 5 people.
Yeah, it's fine.
Goodbye, friends.
Look, attendee attrition is just something that happens with any panel.
Yeah. All right.
Right.
All right, ready to go? Excellent. So, if you're just rejoining us, there was a false fire alarm at the convention center.
On the third floor.
On the third floor, I may request that we are placed on a lower floor if we do this panel again for accessibility reasons.
Yes.
So,
The irony.
can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so if the emergency had been legitimate and we all had to get out of the room, what would have happened? How would you have?
Find the buffest person I can find and just hope they're nice.
There were a couple that were like, are you gonna need carrying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
5 people on there, start going downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
It might
Yeah.
not be graceful, but it would have gotten done.
Yes.
We would have got you. So.
But that's the thing that most able-bodied people don't think about. Like, how to get, and what I think they don't understand is that most people with some sort of accommodation needs, we have to think about where's the nearest entrance? How am I gonna get there? I have to think about how far I have to walk anywhere because my lungs do not work right now. So if someone's like, I need to get from this panel to this panel to this panel, I'm like, well, I'm not doing one of them because I can't get there.
I don't know if on the website they do have, like, I'm sure they have some emergency procedure plan, but I feel like when you go to pick up your ADA sticker, they should give you, like, here we have a very, like, special instructions for you specifically. I just think it's funny that this panel's on the 3rd floor still. I can't stop thinking about that.
Yeah, this might just be is this just the cosplay panel room?
Our panel's in
It
here
might be.
tomorrow.
I think that's where we are.
This
I think
is
it's
Gay
where
Geeks is
the
tonight.
panels are.
Yeah, this is where we were last year when we did Is it crimes or rescue?
Friends.
Cosplay crimes. That's a really fun one. It's various ways we help out making our cosplays, and sometimes we got away with it, and sometimes we didn't.
All the true crime fans are like, what?
Cosplay crimes.
You say crime, I say happy accident.
Yeah.
Just a happy little accident. So yeah, that kind of leads into the what are some simple solutions that cons and other events could implement. I mean,
First, yeah.
letting people know when picking up ADA badges what the emergency plan is.
I think the resting areas would be awesome. I mean, I'm not requesting the con floor to have one specific aisle specifically for, you know, wheelchairs and people with like in walking sticks who just need a little bit more time. Though that would be kind of nice. Let's think about that for a second. But I think the resting areas definitely, like, they have tons of volunteers. There's got to be an area that's like, maybe your meds aren't working or you forgot to take them, or there's something happening and you're overstimulated. Maybe you're epileptic and a light's flashing on the convention floor. Like, there needs to be like little stands or centers to like come bring you water, like come bring, like, you know what I mean? So you don't have to wait. So I feel like more of those kind of like stations would be nice. Yeah, but then you risk, of course, people taking advantage of those situations.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the badge is for. There's certain ADA seatings. Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim a couple of years ago had like designated little like risers that we could use, which was super nice with and without seating. Yeah. All right, I think we only have 10 minutes left. Is that right? Or we have 60 minutes?
We have as long as you want.
You have 10 minutes, but if
Okay.
we can see.
Okay, great. I wanted to leave time for questions from audience, so that's where we have got, I'll throw out a couple of questions and we can popcorn. I haven't heard from Aaliyah in a little bit. Not that I'm making you answer, but if something comes up, I want to make sure that you have time. Okay, how can invisible disabilities present a different set of challenges than visible ones? And then, just so that you have a preview of what the next couple questions is going to be about, you've got cosplays talking about mental health and tips for someone whose physical ability is a barrier to cosplay. Do you want to pick one of those?
Awesome. I guess I can touch on the invisible ones a little bit. For me, my particular disability, I was born with both my feet were clubbed severely. I wasn't supposed to walk ever. Miracle doctor made it happen, but as I got older, like, it's degenerative. It started around college, and I didn't need like a walking cane until about a year or so ago. So mine was invisible. Now it's much more visible, but I'm in pain like 90% of the time. So I think it's just important for tips for people interacting with someone who may have an invisible disability. For one, believe them. I think that's a hard one. Having my walking cane, like, I have a little fancy one. People don't often think it's real. I've had in cosplay one time, someone came up to me, took a picture, nice Bakugo cosplay. You could lose the cane though. And I was just like, don't say stuff like that. So I think that's just a big one. Like, believe them, treat it with respect. It's real, like, whether it's physical or mental, just because you can't see it, like, it's there.
I also think a lot of us with invisible disabilities, I mean, I'm visible right now, but is that we get imposter syndrome about being disabled.
Yes. And you feel ashamed for having a handicap placard. And I know
Yeah, and then
like,
won't ask for help and won't get the ADA sticker and want to try to stick things out. And
I refused to get a mobility aid for the longest time because I was like, it's not that bad. I'm not that disabled. I don't need it. And then I got one and I was like, oh no, this helps.
Sam, how do you deal with that? The imposter syndrome?
oh God, my story is a long one. So I went through cancer treatments for 9 years. I used to be an athlete. Now I have a whole wealth of issues that are permanent, and it has been a very long grieving period. And I think because it developed semi-quickly, that why I feel that a lot. But really, I just need people to keep kicking me in the ass to, like, accept help.
Yeah.
Lacey spent 3 cons trying to talk me into finally doing ADA stickers. And I don't know, you get to a point where you need to ask it, but I need my friends to be like, look, it's fine, you need to do this.
And the cancer ones in particular is really wild because everyone has this idea of, oh, you're done now.
Yeah. Oh, God.
No, like you deal with the repercussions of it for a very, very long, if not forever, kind of a thing. Or they're like, oh, well, I saw you limping last con, but you're better now, right? Or
People so desperately want us to be better.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not. It doesn't
As if
work
we're
that way.
inconveniencing them. Like my condition is also degenerative, and of course it's going to get worse over time. And I watch it, but I still will not go and get an ADA sticker. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. I feel like I'm taking away from somebody who really needs
Like
it.
you're not.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the-
I know,
yeah,
but
that's
like
the thing.
I walk
And you don't-
fast over here.
And you don't have to use everything that's available because there's a bunch of stuff. It gives you access to like the quiet room, different lines, being able to sit in line and be called up when it's your turn, a bunch of different things. And you could use. There's plenty of cons where I get the sticker and I don't end up needing it, but like in case I need it.
It's better to have it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with invisible disabilities is that there are a lot of needs that we just don't think about. Like, okay, access to bathrooms. And, a lot of people think of mobility aids, needing to sit, that kind of thing. But there's a whole wealth of stuff that people may need because they can't get through a day without it.
And in conjunction with cosplay, like because bathroom needs is one of my needs, sometimes I have to make sure that whatever I'm wearing I can get out of quickly.
All my cosplays, yeah.
Yeah. So or access to if it's like I need compression or something, or if I need to be able to take that compression off, you need to be able to access those points. And I have to think about that with every cosplay I wear. I tend to gravitate towards more comfortable cosplays because of it. I tend to, sometimes it's like, well, I will never be able to wear that one, or how can I modify it to be able to wear it?
Yeah,
There's a
I
lot
know about compression, and that really makes things a little hard because I need everything sucked and tight in for circulation and other reasons, and like I'm never peeing the day at all. We don't.
There's a lot of cons where I have sacrificed doing cosplays that I really wanted to do because of my disability and because of just the things I'm dealing with. Like, for this con, I wanted to debut a brand new build of Gerudo Link from Legend of Zelda, and I was dealing with a lot of trauma this year, and I just was not able to do it, and so I've had to sacrifice things that I have wanted to do and things that I am passionate for in order to feel comfortable and not get burnt out and to not, like, fall out of love with this hobby.
If you do have a question, I invite you to come up to the microphone. I'm gonna continue asking, and then I'll just drop you in when I see you. Do you want to talk a little bit more about mental health?
You have to. So I will go into depth a little bit about what happened. So at KatsuCon, I unfortunately got roofied. I know it's kind of a sensitive topic for some people, it definitely is for me, but it happened with the people who did it were friends of mine. They were mutuals that I've had for a really long time, and I just trusted them when I shouldn't have, but because of that, I have been unable to work on cosplay for more than like 30 minutes at a time without losing all of my energy. I had one of the worst panic attacks, I think, of my life Wednesday night, thinking about coming to this con because those people took something that was my safe space and my home and made it something scary and dangerous. And so because my mental health has affected my ability to cosplay so much, I have felt so inadequate and like I'm letting people down and like I'm disappointing people. And I'm also just like disappointing myself because I'm unable to do the things that I want to do. And so I've been dealing a lot with trying to juggle mental health and cosplay because this has turned into something that I have to work harder to enjoy, which is not really great. But I'm here and I'm trying.
I think it's very admirable that you're here and you're trying.
Yeah.
I know it's incredibly difficult. Having a safe space be turned into something that triggers you and stresses you out is.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
It is. There's not really another word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's cosplay, it's play, but there's constant challenges. Like we all feel like this is a big family, and for the most part it is. But I think it also goes back to believing people when they say that they've had a bad experience or that something has happened or something has been unsafe. And ultimately, the con staff should be somebody that you'd be like, hey, I don't feel safe right now. Like, where can I go? What can I do? And that should just be the norm. And sometimes it is, but it should be more so.
All right, I have an audience question. Go ahead.
Hi,
Hi, what's your name?
Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
With that in mind, how long do you plan out your cosplays and what your cosplay lineup is going to be before you decide that that's what you're going to start building in accommodation to the mental health and the disabilities, and how often do cosplays then get tabled because of it?
I plan to start like 4 months ago because it was going to be a competition build and things like that, and I would have actually gotten it done for this con if the events in February didn't happen. But I've also had cosplays that, like, because of the challenges with chronic pain and things and the techniques required to make those, I've had to just stop the projects, which has been really rough. But yeah, I try to give myself as much time as possible just because I know that I work slower and in shorter bursts of time because of my chronic pain. And so when something really unexpected that impacts it so much happens, it's really frustrating because it's like I gave myself all this time, but it still wasn't enough.
But give yourself grace as well. Like, this was plan B today.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I never go into a cosplay thinking I'm going to finish making it by a certain time. Even if I want to, I know I'm probably not going to. I have cosplays I've been working on a few minutes at a time for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the fuck it bucket. And that's where the stuff goes when I don't want to work on it anymore. And I'm okay with that.
I try to be very strict with working on things where if I'm doing stuff that has to be on my feet and my legs, which is normally wig styling, or sometimes airbrushing or building something, I try to not do that at the last bit before a con if that's my deadline, because I need my legs to work for the con. So like my reset usually is 8 to 10 hours. I know it sounds really weird, but if I can go a full day on my legs and be just dying at the end of the day or like midday, depending on what I did or didn't do while I was walking, I just have to be horizontal and then I'm fine the next day. But if I'm doing a bunch of wigs, a bunch of standing up the week of a show or a con, and then I don't get proper rest, like I'm not a night before, let's stay up all night and get stuff done before a flight or whatever kind of person for a con. I cannot physically do that. I will not be able to walk the next day. So I try to keep those things in the beginning, and then most of the time if it's sitting work, then I'll do that right up before I actually need it.
You also asked about like how soon we know our lineups. I literally didn't know what I was wearing other than this until last night when I was packing it.
Yeah.
Even if I plan a lineup, even if I post a lineup, it's not law.
Yeah. All the lineups are TBD now.
Yeah. He was like, "What are you wearing?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
I mean, 2 days ago, I was like, I'll be Ivy on Sunday. I have all that, right? Yeah, okay. Wait in 5 minutes, let's go.
All right. Well, really quick, we're just going to go down and say who we are and where we can be found. Sorry, I drafted TikTok being on there, but we've established we don't have that. Be the Spark Cosplay on Instagram and Facebook. I am at joy.goblin on Instagram and just at joygoblin on TikTok, but mostly Instagram.
Elemental Cosplay at elemental.cosplay on Instagram. I might have the TikTok just to claim it. I've never actually, but I've never actually been on TikTok. So
Don't post, just own it. Don't post it. I miss Chrissy Lynn on everything with one N. Trust me, if that name with 2 N's was available 15 years ago, I would have gotten it. The miss is going to be phased out very soon. That needs to go away to something else. But yeah, just Chrissy Lynn across the board usually.
Yeah, it's probably Ghost on everything. TikTok, Instagram, all that.
It's J Mills Makeup and Hair on Instagram and Pixie Chick on TikTok because I'm bad at branding.
Magical Black Girl Aaliyah on Instagram and Magical BLKGRL on TikTok because they made me shorten it.
All right, cool. Thank you so much for coming and for your questions, guys. And thank you to my wonderful panelists, all of you.